Okay, my today's topic is calculation of normal loss from the subject costing method, and the chapter name is process costing. So what is normal loss? Before we proceed with solving the problem, let us understand what is normal loss. So normal loss arises when the output is not equal to the inputs. The inputs introduced in the manufacturing process, when the input means it is the raw material, when it passes through from one process to another process for conversion into finished product, when the output is not equal to the input, that is finished product is not equal to the raw material introduced in the manufacturing process, then it is said to be normal loss. Normal loss arises due to normal conditions which is unavoidable in manufacturing process. The normal conditions such as due to shrinkage, due to cutting and melting the process, due to chemical reaction. So there arises normal loss which is unavoidable. So let us understand better the calculation of normal loss in preparation of process costing accounts. So in this problem, let us take up problem number 4. So in this problem, the product or the raw material passes through 3 processes, that is process X, process Y and process Z for conversion into finished product. So let's begin with preparation of the account process X. So as per the information given here, we need to record all expenses on the debit side, and the total cost and the quantity will be transferred from one process to the next process. So let's begin with this preparation. So on the debit side, all expenses, that is to raw material quantity is given. 36,000 is quantity and the cost is 4,600. And next is wages. This is 2,400. Work overheads. 5,600. And the total on the debit side, total quantity is 36,000 units and total cost 12,600. So this total of process X is transferred from debit side to the credit side. But process Y account, since it is the total quantity and cost is transferred to process Y, 36,000 quantity and the cost is 12,600. Since the finished product in process X is equal to, the output is equal to the input, so there is no difference in the quantity. The raw material introduced is 36,000 units and the finished product is also 36,000. There is no difference between output and the input, therefore there is no normal loss in process X. So let's move on with the preparation of the next process, process Y account. Before we move on, let us calculate what is cost per unit in process X account. cost per unit in process X. Take the total cost divided by total quantity. Total cost is 12,600 and total quantity is 36,000 units. So therefore, the cost per unit comes to 0.35 for process X. Now let's move on to the preparation of process by account. In process by account, let's consider all the expenses on the debit side. That is to opening stock. So opening stock given in process Y is 4,000 units. So only quantity of opening stock is given, and what is the cost of this 4,000 units is not given. Therefore, we need to consider per unit cost is 0.35 from process Y account. The quantity is 4,000 into per unit cost 0.35, and the total cost comes to 1,400. So, and now we consider all the expenses of process Y, that is to material. The material cost is 8,000. To wages, it is 6,000. Next is to overheads. Works overheads. This is 2,350, and we need to take what is the quantity in the cost from process X to process X account. It is 36,000 quantity, and the cost is 12,600. Total of quantity 4,000 plus 36,000. This comes to 40,000 quantity from process Y, and the total cost, adding all this, total cost comes to 30,350. So there is also given closing stock in this process Y. By closing stock, so closing stock quantity is 1,000 units. So we need to take the same rate for closing stock also, 1,000 into 0.35, 1,000 into 0.35. And the cost of 1,000 units is 350, and the output of process Y production is given by process Y output is given in the problem. This is 37,500. 37,500 is the output. Now we need to take what is the quantity given on the credit side is closing stock 1000 units and output of process wise 37,500 units. Adding these two quantities, this comes to 38,500. On the debit side, we have the total quantity 40,000. So we need to minus 38,500 from 40,000. What is the difference? What is the difference? 1,500. 1,500 is the difference. That is excess of debit on credit. Debit side we have 40,000 units. Credit side 37,500 plus 1,000, 38,500 minus from 40,000. The difference is 1,500 units is considered as normal loss. So what is the normal loss? 1,500 units. That is excess of debit on credit 1,500 and the total can be shown here 40,000. Okay. Next here the total cost shown on debit side is 30,350 and here we have the cost of 1,000 unit 350. 350 minus from 30,350 and the difference of cost that is 30,000 is the cost of 37,500 units is 30,000. So the total we can show here 30,350. So before we move on to process debt, third process, we need to calculate what is cost per unit in process Y account. So that can be calculated here. Process Y. What is the total cost? 30,000. 30,000 divided by total units produced in process Y 37,500 and what will be the cost per unit? 30,000 divided by 37,500. Cost per unit is 0.8. This is per unit cost. So with this information now we can prepare process Y. So what is the quantity and the output will be transferred to process Y account. Okay, let's move on to the preparation of process debt account. We will consider on debit side all expenses from Z process. So Z account we have the expenses. Opening stock is given in Z process is 16,500. So only quantity is given. We need to calculate what is the cost of 16,500. We have to take per unit cost of process Y, that is 0.8. So 16,500 into 0.8. So the cost is 13,200. 13,200 is the cost, and let us consider all the expenses expenses or the cost of process Z, that is material.
20,000.
Material is 20,000. The next is wages. Wages is 9,000. To overheads. Overheads is 4,200. We need to transfer the cost and the quantity from Y process to Z process. That is to transfer from Y process. So what is the transfer from Y process? It is 37,500 quantity and the cost is 30,000. We need to show the total of 16,500 and 37,500. What is the total? On debit side, total quantity is 54,000 quantity, and take the total of all the cost here on debit side, adding 13,400. This comes to 76,400 is the cost. So let's consider on the credit side, there is closing stock.
By closing stock. 5,500 into.
What is closing stock given? 5,500. We need to take cost per unit 0.8. 5,500 into 0.8 and the cost is
4,400.
4,400. Next week
By finished goods.
we should take what is the production of process Z. Process Z finished product by finished
Goods.
stock account.
48,000.
Finished stock account given in this process is 48,000.
72,000.
48,000 is given. So we need to calculate what is your is there any normal loss? We have to consider what is the total on the credit side. 48,000 plus 5,500. This comes to 53,500 minus from the total quantity on debit side 54,000. 54,000 minus 48,000 plus 5,500. This is 53,500. The difference of quantity, excess of debit on credit, it is 500.
500.
So that is shown as normal loss. In process Z, 500 is normal loss. By normal loss 500. This is excess of credit on excess of debit on credit. So debit side 54,000, credit side only 53,500. So the difference of 500 is normal loss. So we need to see what is the excess of debit on credit. Here we have a closing stock cost is 4,400. On the debit side there is 76,400.
72,000 is balance.
So minus of 4,400 from 76,400 and the difference is 72,000. This is the cost of 48,000 units. So the total can be shown. Quantity is total 54,000 and the total cost is 76,400. So we can also calculate what is per unit cost in process Z. So that you can take total cost divided by total quantity, that is process Z. Process Z, its total cost is 72,000 divided by total quantity 48,000. So cost per unit in process Z, this will be divide 72,000 by 48,000. Cost per unit is 1.5. So I hope you understand this calculation of normal loss and how the cost per unit is calculated for finding out opening and closing stock, and what is the procedure of finding out normal loss.
This cost per unit process rate 1.5 where we have to take now. This final end of right?
This
That one.
we will know what is the cost per unit after the three processes. Process X, Y, Z. After completion of all the three processes, what is the cost per unit? We can know from 1.5 is the cost per unit. That is for information. And the total cost is 72,000. Total quantity manufactured after the three processes, it is 48,000 quantity is produced. The cost of 48,000 quantity is 72,000. Per unit cost is 1.5. So this we have ascertained from these three processes. So in the first process X and process Y, we need this cost per unit is for calculation of opening stock and closing stock. At the end of the third process Z, we will know the total cost per unit comes to 1.5. Okay, is it clear? Now the last information we need to calculate from this problem is we need to find out what is the profit earned from this order. So let's calculate what is the calculation of profit and selling price. So what is the profit? We can find out taking total cost of production. Cost of production is 72,000. Cost of production is 72,000, and there is expenses on advertising and selling and distribution. Expenses is given. We need to add selling and distribution expenses, that is 5,000. Selling and distribution expenses is 5,000. 72,000 plus 5,000. 77,000 is the total cost including selling and distribution expenses, and we need to add 25% on total cost. So we have to calculate what is 25% on total cost, that is profit. So profit is 25% on total cost. So take 77,000 is total cost into 25 by 100. So 25% on cost, this comes to 19,250. Add to total cost, that will be the sales value. Sales value is 96,250. So your total cost is 77,000. Add 25%, that is 25%. 25% on cost is 25 by 100 on 77,000. This is 19,250 is profit. Adding profit to cost, 96,250 is sales value. So you understood this calculation. What is the sales and what is profit? It is 25% on cost. Is it clear with this?